In the past couple of years, the Schengen area, which is supposed to guarantee borderless travel between 29 European countries, has started to look a bit broken. Anxious about immigration and national security, various member states have used emergency procedures to set up semi-permanent borders within the zone, undermining the basic principle of Schengen. To address this, the EU is currently rolling out a new digital border management system known as the Entry-Exit System, or EES, which would, in order to better track short-term stays by non-EU nationals, replace traditional passport stamping with biometric data, automated border checks, and digital records of entry and exit. However, the new system is already proving a bit controversial, and even sparked protests this week at borders with neighbouring non-EU countries. So in this video, we'll take a closer look at what's happening in Schengen, explain how the EES works, and why it's already proving controversial. We're in the process of clearing out our store, so we're running a fire sale right now. Using code FIRESALE, you can get 40% off all of our posters, notebooks, calendars, magnets, keyrings, Brexit the colouring book, the lot. That offer ends very soon, so click the link in the description for more. First, let's start with some context on the Schengen area. The principle of free movement has long been key to the European project. The 1957 Treaty of Rome contained provisions on free movement between member countries, which allowed working Europeans to settle and work in any member state. Then in 1985, 5 of the 10 EEC member states signed an agreement to gradually abolish checks at their common borders. A convention signed in 1990 proposed a complete abolition of internal border controls and the establishment of a common visa policy. The agreement entered into force in 1995 and was incorporated into EU law by 1999. Nowadays, the Schengen area encompasses the entirety of the EU, except for Cyprus and Ireland, which have opt-outs, but it also applies to 4 non-EU states: Iceland, Norway, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein. There's also Monaco, San Marino, and the Vatican City, microstates that aren't Schengen members but effectively operate as if they are. However, in recent years, both the political project of Schengen and the system of open borders itself has been under increasing pressure. In fact, since the refugee crisis of September 2015, countries have reintroduced border checks at the EU's internal borders more than 400 times. For context, while Schengen is supposed to operate as a zone of free movement for people, countries are allowed to introduce temporary internal border controls as a last resort measure if the country deems it necessary to protect its national security. Amid pressure from hard-right upstarts, multiple Western European governments, including Germany, Denmark, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Slovenia, and Sweden, have been repeatedly introducing and reintroducing these measures, creating a sort of semi-permanent border within Schengen. The main reason cited is the increased threat of irregular immigration, but there are also concerns about hybrid threats from Russia and Belarus, high levels of asylum applications, increased threat of organised crime, smuggling and infiltrated terror migrant networks, and the deteriorating security situation in the Middle East and Ukraine. But these measures have been criticised for undermining the very point and integrity of Schengen. In September 2024, for instance, Germany sparked mass backlash from its neighbours when it decided to impose checks on all of its borders. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk called the checks unacceptable and a de facto suspension of the Schengen Agreement on a large scale. Since then, the new German government, led by Chancellor Friedrich Merz, doubled down on these controls, sparking outrage from Luxembourg, which submitted a formal complaint to Brussels, arguing that Germany's controls were disrupting tens of thousands of commuters and businesses being held up by the checks. Germany's new border controls also risk triggering a domino effect. For instance, Austria said that it would refuse to accept migrants turned away at the German border, and Germany's other neighbours could do the same if this results in an increase in migration flows across their borders, paving the way for a total collapse of Schengen. Anyway, in an attempt to strengthen Schengen, the EU has been pushing for a handful of measures, including amendments to the Schengen Code for a more expansive definition of the term threat, stricter rules on migrant returns, and the potential establishment of deportation centres. The bloc has also introduced a new automated IT system aimed to monitor non-EU travellers who spend more than 90 days in any 180-day period in the EU without a visa, called the Entry-Exit System, or EES. Proposed in 2016 by the European Commission as part of the Smart Borders Initiative, the EES captures and stores travellers' biometric data for fingerprints and facial image, along with their passport information. It's designed to replace manual passport stamping, criticised as inefficient and prone to errors, and automatically log when and where non-EU visitors enter or leave the Schengen area by sharing data across member states through a centralised EU database. This allows for real-time tracking of travellers' movements, allowing authorities to quickly detect and respond to issues such as identity fraud, overstays, and security risks. Implementation of EES began in October 2025 and is expected to be fully implemented across the Schengen area by mid-April. On top of the EES, by the end of the year, a new visa waiver system called the European Travel Information and Authorization System is supposed to be rolled out, which will require visa-exempt travellers to obtain pre-travel authorization. Now, Brussels hopes that these measures will strengthen the bloc's external borders, and thus take some pressure off Schengen, since member states don't trust one another to properly police their external borders. However, not everyone's too happy with these new rules. First, there are understandable concerns over the EES's use of personal data and reliance on a single centralized database with everyone's biometric data. Second, the rollout itself, which has been delayed for years, hasn't been too smooth, with passengers and industry leaders complaining about hours-long queues and delays caused by these new checks. Some of Europe's busiest airports have even reported waits as long as 3 hours during peak travel times. These delays have meant some border crossings have actually had to revert to manual stamping, and it's not clear whether all border crossings will have the operational capacity to run smoothly by mid-April. But third, and perhaps most importantly, the new rules have created serious difficulties for non-EU nationals who work as cross-border workers within the Schengen area. For example, truck drivers from Western Balkan countries regularly cross Schengen borders to deliver goods to the EU. Stricter enforcement of the 90 days within a 180-day period rule means that these drivers will use up their permitted stay much more quickly, leaving them without work. Any driver who overstays risks being classified as an illegal worker and may face detention or deportation. In fact, dozens have already been detained and deported over the past year. In response, this week, truck drivers across Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro and North Macedonia have blocked freight terminals at border crossings with neighbouring Schengen countries, demanding special status and recognition of their work as legal. They warn that without changes, Balkan transport companies could face severe driver shortages by mid-April, which they argue would lead to a complete collapse of the supply chain. Now, if you stuck around this long, chances are you're passionate about learning and bettering yourself through knowledge, just like us. You're obviously a thinker, and Brilliant is the perfect learning platform to unlock your full potential. That's because Brilliant pushes you to excel in maths and computer science with visual interactive problem solving and personalized experience. Their website and app is designed to be highly effective, offering the perfect mix of interactive problems, motivating challenges, and encouragement to keep you moving forward. Here you can build genuine understanding and reach serious learning goals. On Brilliant, you'll click with concepts you used to struggle with. Their ever-expanding library covers everything from timeless topics in maths and science to cutting-edge concepts in AI, quantum, and beyond. Wherever you are on your learning journey, Brilliant will start you at the perfect level to grow and achieve your goals at your own pace, with each course being crafted by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professors from MIT, Harvard, Stanford, Caltech, Google, and more. So if you want to start learning with confidence and become an even better problem solver, then you can try Brilliant for free for a full 30 days. Just go to brilliant.org/TLDR, scan the QR code on screen, or click the link in the description. Brilliant is also giving our viewers 20% off their annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant.